Hi, it is Saturday, June 18th, 2022, and Bitcoin is continuing its crash. It's now down below 20,000. Ethereum's crossed below 1,000. And it's so interesting seeing the Twitter. I mean, of course, you have to sift through. There's a lot of ignorance. I mean, a lot of people just don't even understand basic supply and demand in some of these Bitcoin threads, and a lot of the regular kind of touting and just the simple-minded kind of claims. But beneath it, there's the conviction of those who really just see cryptocurrency as a solution to basically the government and the bank's control over the money, and they see it as a way that transactions can happen outside of the scrutiny of government, outside of government regulations and all this, how it can be easily transferred around the world and all this. And at the current time, we do still have all these world governments, and it's really hard to anticipate exactly how the freedom revolution is going to go. Is it going to just start in America? Are other governments going to kind of maintain their control and do things their own way? In my estimation, a lot of governments will, because there's not going to be any trust in America. There's not going to be any trust in capitalism. There's not going to be any trust in the way that we're going to be doing things here. And so there, in my estimation, will remain a use case, and in many scenarios there will increase a use case for some of these cryptos in the future. Just so I do believe there is a real value to be found in the market. I don't believe, some people say, oh, Bitcoin's going to zero. Well, first of all, that really isn't feasible, because it is a live trading market. And I mean, if the price gets low enough, I could buy up the whole market for $100, right? And so it still wouldn't be zero. It would still be some very small fraction of a penny or whatever. But however, it will still be a market, and it will still be trading. And so there will always be people trading it and trying to make money in the market, and it's going to have periods of time where it goes up. It's going to have periods of time where it goes down, and it's always going to be something people can gamble on. There's always going to be this gambling aspect to it. So the question is, where in that casino do you find the edge? Where in that casino is there money to be made? And not only is there money to be made, but is there utility to be found? So, I can compare this to a regular casino. 90% of the casino games, 95% are completely unbeatable, right? The house has an edge, or the edge is too much to overcome. You can't win. And so you got to find that one game that you can win, that is different. Okay, so that's probably enough with that analogy. But the thing that I think about with this is, what is that use case? So that use case, really, what we're talking about, whether you like it or not, is black market activity. And without promoting black market activity or saying that's something you should be participating in, I can say that A, there are people who do participate in it, and B, as this collapse continues and people get more desperate, and especially if price controls and things like that and capital restrictions, all these things are coming in, there's going to be more people needing black market currency, basically. And so the demand, there is a demand that is there that could be expected to increase. But the question I ask myself is, what currency, which crypto would these guys be choosing to use for this demand? And to me, the crypto that is the most obvious answer is Monero, because it's a privacy coin where there is no ledger the way there is with Bitcoin. There's an open ledger. You can see all the transactions that have taken place. There is none of that. It's more obscure. It's more difficult to track, to trace. It's designed specifically that way. Now, there are other privacy coins that compete with Monero, and I can see that there would be some benefit, or I could understand people speculating in some of those. For me, I would stick with Monero because there's a few reasons. One is, I actually like one of the other ones some people buy is Pirate Chain, and I think the difficulty of getting that, the fact you can't buy that directly, you kind of have to buy Bitcoin and then you have to exchange that for Monero, exchange that for Pirate. Like there's this big jump of hoops, it seems, to go from like not owning crypto to owning that. And I think that extra layer, now eventually that might be something that they can get around where you can get it directly, but I don't believe that's been implemented yet. And to me, that's a pretty big barrier to entry and something that might prevent more casual people who just need to use a currency. I think it might be easier for them to obtain Monero. Also, Monero is already being used in a lot of these dark web transactions, so it's like something people already use, and once people are using it, there's a good likelihood they're going to continue using it. So for me, that's like where it ends. Like that's the one. Now, right now, it's dipped down to $100. Now, here's the thing about crypto. It is a market that has been supported by cheap credit. You know, the price, there's been a lot of leverage in the market. There's been a lot of gambling, a lot of speculation, a lot of people trying to make a quick buck. And so the price has gotten inflated way above like how many people actually perceive it as solving a real problem in the marketplace. So there's a detachment. So I don't want to own, even if I believe something has real value, I don't want to own it if it's priced at a level that's too high for me. And so I'm like probably one of like the very, 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 very few people on this planet who actually does believe that there is this use case, that there is this underlying value, and yet doesn't own it at the current time because thinks that the market price is just too high at this current time. Now, again, like value, like when I say that, like the market price might justify like the real value, the ultimate value of these things might be more than that market price, but the actual, like if we were just basing the price on people's current perceptions, I think the price is too high. And so eventually perceptions will change, and then you'll see more money coming in because the market will expand, more people will be buying, but that perception shift hasn't yet happened. And I don't think that perception shift, well, here's the thing. What I'm doing is very precise, it's very dangerous, and it's something I wouldn't recommend for someone else to do. First of all, I'm not a financial advisor. I don't give investment advice anyway. But even if I did, I still wouldn't advise anyone to use the strategy that I'm using. If I was if I was to give advice, and I'm not, because the other thing is every individual situation is a little different, I would think that it would be smart to have some amount of Monero in your portfolio if you're not a crazy person trying to time the market, because timing the market is a dangerous game, and it's something you shouldn't do unless you have a high degree of confidence in your ability to do so. And I have a high degree of confidence that the crypto market sell-off is not complete, that these rates, the Fed is different right now than what they've been in the past. In the past, their focus has been on employment, their focus has been on growing the economy and inflating these asset bubbles. And right now their focus is on inflation. The inflation numbers are like 8%. These are significant. These are bad numbers for the Fed. The Fed's talked about 2%. They've talked about transitory slightly above, but now we're way above. And they need that number to come down. And I don't believe that number's going to come down. I don't think anything's happening that's going to bring that number down. The collapsing of this credit bubble isn't going to bring that number down. Because even though demand may decrease, supply is also decreasing. You know, the economy is rolling over, supply chains have been destroyed, governments are making a lot of policies that are really bad economically, and all of those conditions are remaining. And these are all, and you've got all this money printing, all this money's come out of the markets and it's bidding up the price of real assets, and it's a trend, it's an end game of this currency. And because of that, I feel as though the Fed is going to continue to try to fight it. Unsuccessfully, but what they will successfully do is continue to bring down these markets. And things are going to get extremely volatile once this collapse hits a certain point, because there is money on the sidelines. There are people who have sold positions that are holding cash. There's a lot of cash, a lot of money that has been printed that people are holding on to, and they're holding on to it out of fear. But the lower the price goes, the lower the market goes, the easier it is for people to take a small amount of that cash and to move the market. And so the market's really going to start moving. I think as it goes lower, the daily swings are going to get bigger. It's going to become very volatile. And I'm just going to keep watching and waiting for a moment where it feels to me like I'm giving up less than what I'm getting. You know, there's 100 million Moneros on the planet, right? And so I can well, whatever price I'm paying, I'm going to get a little bit of that market. And once I own that little bit of that market, now those are mine. Now, no matter what craziness, no matter what madness is going on in prices, I can say I own this much. So if Monero becomes, like, say the price crashes all the way down to $10, which I don't think is out of the question, and say I come in and I decide I'm going to buy, well, that is for ease, I'll just say out of ease, say I buy 100 of them, right? So I buy 1,000 worth. So now I own 100 Monero. Well, I own 1 out of every million Monero on this planet at that point. So if you were to equate that to Bitcoin, that would be like owning 21 Bitcoin, right? And if something does become a major currency that people are using, owning 1 out of a million of them is gonna be worth a fucking incredible amount. Now, I'm not saying that's the exact amount I'm gonna buy. That was just a nice round number. Part of this is gonna depend on how much cash I'm sitting on when this happens. I would ideally like to increase my cash position so that I can buy, and after this crash, there's going to be bargains all over the place. There's going to be stocks that have sold off 95, 98%, might still have real value on the balance sheet. And so it's, I think if you're planning to do this, if you're planning, one strategy people take, they just say that I'm going to buy gold, I'm going to be safe. I know gold is safe, and I'm just going to hold my gold indefinitely. And you can do that, but the thing about a market crash is there are deals to be had, and after the crash happens, that's when you go after those deals. And ultimately, gold is really just dry powder for the future where the dollar is no more good. And you're going to be using gold to buy up stocks, to buy up cryptos, to buy up real estate, to buy up equipment, whatever. There's going to be bargains all over the society because there's going to be bankruptcies, and there's going to be stuff that's on sale, and there's only going to be a handful of people who have the capital to buy it. And so there's not going to be a lot of bidding wars. It's going to be, I'm going to take whatever you're going to give me because I need this money to survive. So Monero is just one thing, but I think it's something that potentially could go up. I mean, after this crash, all these cryptos could eventually end up making new highs when priced in dollars, because the dollar's not going to be worth anything. We know the dollar's going to become worthless. It's just a matter of when can you get the biggest piece of that market. And for me, I believe I can get a bigger chunk of that market in the future than I can today. And I think that I'm also very unique because I think people have been very unwilling to really consider different perspectives. And, with the crypto versus non-crypto people, a lot of it's been like, well, I believe in crypto, therefore I'm going to own it, and I'm going to just own as much as I can. And then the people who don't believe in it are like, well, it's going to zero, and so I'm never going to own it. And I'm in neither of those camps. I'm a guy who says, I do think there's value, but I think it's overpriced, and so I'm waiting to time the market. And you want to be me. You want to be the guy who is doing what no one else is fucking doing. If you want to make a fortune, which is what I'm going for. So, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, if that was the number, you own 1/1,000,000th. I mean, can you imagine owning 21 full Bitcoin if Bitcoin was being used for a large amount of the world's currencies? I mean, or the world's transactions. I mean, that would be absurd. So, you buy in at a small price. You give yourself a chance. Now, look, I could be wrong. I am gambling. I'm. The Fed could come out tomorrow or Monday, and they could say, you know what? We're having an emergency meeting. This market sell-off has been more than we can stomach. We think the inflation's transitory. We think we can prop up this market. and that this isn't going to hurt inflation. And they could try to spin that, and they could try to push the market back up. But if they do, it's like, okay, I won't be able to buy at this low price. But it's going to destroy the dollar, and my gold is going to go way up in value. And if that happens, well, and I really want to get in that market, I can still get in at a higher price. And I don't think so, though. I don't know. This is just me. This is the way I've done it. You know, it's an interesting level that it's at right now. I remember Doug Casey, he bought in when it was like 19,000 coming up on the other side. I remember that. And because he's a guy I've always listened to, I've always respected. I always think he's got good analysis and good things to say about markets. And he got on the Bitcoin bust finally. It sounded like on the way up. And now maybe he had bought some before. I hadn't heard of that, but he would be even now if that is what he did. And gosh, I mean, I guess that's what I wanted to say about crypto. So that's where I stand, and I'm happy with the decisions I've made. I mean, you know, I could have gotten in Bitcoin early, ridden the whole thing up, held it out. I could be one of those guys, and I could still be probably have more paper wealth than what I currently do. But I would have learned a lot of bad habits. I probably would have squandered a lot of the money because it would have come easy. I would have probably blown off people like Peter Schiff and people telling the other side of the story because of my own ego. And I would feel probably less good right now, even though my paper wealth might still be higher than it is given the decisions that I have made. I'm happy with the decisions I've made, and I was happy to see gold and silver kind of buck the trend on Friday. These other assets continued to decline, and well, I guess it was Thursday. I guess Friday they went down a little, but they had recovered a little on Thursday, and that's nice, man. It's, you know, Jim Cramer even came out and said something about wanting to own gold during inflation. So, like, you know, a lot of the mainstream market guys understand gold probably better than a lot of the crypto guys, but they just don't understand that the economic side of like that the inflation is going to be happening, that it is going to be here, that it is going to stay there. Like, they don't understand that, but they know that if that does happen, that you want to own gold. So, like, the market is going to support the gold bugs, man. And it's just a matter of holding on to your gold until the crash is complete. And what we're really seeing, we are going to see a crash in terms of gold. But, you know, the price of gold is underpriced. You know, cryptos drew a lot of the people who would have been buying gold over this last many years away from the gold market. And the result has been a very kind of small niche of people who have remained loyal to gold, who have said, this is my safe haven, this is my insurance against the collapse But because that's happened, we've been able to accumulate more than we would have been able to accumulate if the price had been going up all these years. And we've been able to kind of split the gold amongst fewer of us than had all those people been competing with us to buy it. So, you know, I don't have a great amount. I'm not a rich man, but I'm happy with where I sit. I'm grateful for what God has given me. And, you know, yesterday was nice. I took the kids to a movie. We saw Buzz Lightyear, which is like a Disney Pixar movie, and it was actually pretty engaging, man. It didn't have any like horrendously offensive. I mean, some of the science as was a little skeptical as far as like this guy flies around the planet and like 4 years passes for everyone else, and like they're all surprised that happened. I'm like, these guys are like galactic, interstellar, like astronauts, and like they don't know this like basic physical concept. Not to mention like how could you, if you see this thing go around the sun real quick and come back to you, how are you seeing that taking 4 years? Like there were just some of the science part of it was a little sketch, but what are you gonna do? It's a fucking kids movie, and but it was somewhat engaging. I mean, I won't say like I was like, wow, that was like awesome, like that made me so happy to go do that, but it kept me entertained and occupied, which is all I can really ask for these days. And I took him out to eat. Well, I don't know. It's looking a little overcast today, but I was thinking about doing the water park this afternoon if it clears up. It's been really hot, so I haven't been as consistent with my exercise and my fasting recently. I need to try to get back in that routine, but it's been a struggle. So one day at a time.